A Palestinian women's group attacks the only feminist beacon of feminism in the Middle East. Find out more about this hypocrisy today. My name is Jared White. This is JNEWS. Hey guys, I got a great show for you today. Really excited. Today we got an article about a Palestinian women's group that is actually very anti-women. But before we start, question of the day, and this is tailored towards the women in the audience. Where would you rather live, Israel or Iran? Let us know what you think below. So, we're going to start today's story by talking about a report that was released by the Ministry of Strategic Affairs and Public Diplomacy. That is an agency within the Israeli government, and this report talks about the EU and the money that they're giving to different NGOs around the world. Now, the EU gives a lot of money to different NGOs that help with humanitarian work, especially in the Middle East, and they gave a whopping 481,773 euros to a women's group called the Culture and Free Thought Association, the General Union of Palestinian Women. Now, let's talk about this organization and what they do. Their mission statement says, to empower women by providing them with economic and developmental support, healthcare, legal, and psychological. That sounds good. The CFTA, in theory, sounds like a great organization, and I would support it. But what did they do with the money that the EU gave them? Well, they started supporting BDS anti-Israel policies, calling for women around the world to boycott Israel because of how awful Israel is towards women. Now, I want to say that this is just horrendously ironic because Israel is the gem of women's rights in the Middle East. They are the only feminist country in the Middle East, and we're going to talk about the ways that they are the only feminist country in the Middle East just today. So, without further ado, let us talk about the different ways that Israel is just better than other places in the Middle East on women's issues. I want to put a disclaimer in the beginning of this video, and I don't usually like doing that, but we're going to be talking about some really serious and heavy topics today. So if you are a little squeamish, I'd grab your safety blanket and buckle in because it is going to be a rough ride. Okay? So, topic one of the day, rape. Heinous crime. Don't think I need to elaborate on how awful it is. How does Israel handle this awful crime? And do they punish it in the way that it should be? Well, you can expect 16 years to life in prison in Israel for rape. Man, CFTA, they got us here. The life sentencing for rape. How anti-women is that? God, please, give me a break. But let us do a comparison. In Jordan, for instance, rape is only punishable by 7 years. That is less than the amount you would receive for armed robbery in certain areas of the United States, which has sometimes a minimum sentencing of 10 years. So you can get away with less than 10 years in Jordan for rape. Where is the CFTA in Jordan, boycotting Jordan for their slap on the wrist attitude towards one of the most heinous crimes known to man? I feel like that should be enough to show you how great Israel treats women, but this would be a short video if I just did that. So we're going to keep going and give you a lot more examples, all right? How about marital abuse? According to a 2011 study done by PCBS, it's titled The Violence Survey in Palestinian Society, 51% of married women in Gaza suffer some form of abuse by their husbands. 51, over half of women in Gaza that are married suffer abuse from their husbands. Where is the CFTA, which is headquartered in the Palestinian territories? Where are they boycotting that? I see you're not thoroughly convinced. That's fine, we'll keep going. I got plenty. Female genital mutilation. Another heinous crime that should be outlawed everywhere around the world, but unfortunately that's not the case in a lot of places in the Arab world. In Egypt, up until 2007, female genital mutilation was a very common practice, and it killed a lot of young girls because of the unsafe, unclean medical procedure. I mean, performing surgery in the middle of the desert kind of comes with hygiene problems, just saying. But in 2007, fortunately, the Egyptian government decided to progress and evolve with the rest of the world and outlawed the practice. But that didn't mean that it stopped. Just because you criminalize something doesn't mean that it stops, unfortunately. In 2014, UNICEF reported that 91% of women in Egypt have undergone some form of female genital mutilation. Why is it that an NGO that is specifically designed to protect women's rights is ignoring the fact that young little girls are getting butchered in Arab countries around the world? I haven't scared you away, right? This is heavy stuff, I know, but we're going to have to keep going to demonstrate this point of how hypocritical the CFTA is. If these crimes weren't bad enough, let's look at how women are treated according to the law. Now, this is a very common one that I'm sure a lot of you have heard. The story that a woman's testimony in court is worth half of a man's in the Middle East. Let's name a few countries that do this. Egypt, Iraq, Iran, Syria, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and all of the Palestinian territories. That means, regardless of the crime, whether it be robbery, assault, or even rape, it would take 2 women just to be put on an even playing field with a man in these Arab countries. If it's that bad in the Arab world, Israel must just be awful, right? I mean, the CFTA has to have some leg to stand on. No. There's gender equality in courts of law in Israel. A woman's testimony is equal to a man's in the courtroom. Here's a doozy. Forced child marriage. In Gaza, as of 2017, 15% of girls under the age of 18 are married and 1% are married under the age of 15. 1% may not sound like a lot, but let's clarify that number. 4,000 girls under the age of 15 are married in Gaza. In Egypt, 17% of girls under the age of 18 are married and 2% are under the age of 15. Iran, 17% and 3%. What does 3% look like? Over 526,000 little girls are sold into marriage before the age of 15 in Iran. If Iran has over 500,000 little girls married before the age of 15, what are Israel's numbers, you may ask? Well, let me tell you, it's actually illegal to marry anyone under the age of 18 in Israel. I'm hoping you've started to see how ridiculous and hypocritical it is for the CFTA to criticize Israel when the rest of the Arab world does tremendously worse for women. But I got one more example for you, and this is actually on a more positive note, I believe. Let's talk about women's empowerment in politics, because I think that that is one of the best indicators of gender equality. If you have more equal representation and political power between the sexes, you must have a pretty progressive country. Well, as of 2018, 28% of the Israeli parliament is made up of women. That beats even the United States, where only 20% of Congress is women. I have no shame in admitting that Israel outplays my home country. That's great. I'm glad to see women being empowered in the Middle East, something that just doesn't happen there. And if you don't believe me, let's look at the numbers of women political empowerment in the rest of the Middle East. On average, 6%. You heard me right, 0.6%. If the Culture and Free Thought Association wanted to actually talk about women's empowerment and women's rights violations, they could address any of the issues that I addressed today, but they don't. Why? I guess they're more interested in forwarding their hypocritical political agenda and ignoring women's rights violations in the Middle East by attacking the only one feminist country in the Middle East, Israel. Hey there! I hope you liked this video. Make sure to follow us on Facebook and YouTube at Jerusalem Institute of Justice to get more videos like this. Make sure to hit that subscription button and hit the little notifying bell to be notified of upcoming videos. Also, follow us on Twitter at JIJ_Israel. And of course, go onto our website at jij.org to read all their articles and other things that we post. Comments, feedback, fatwas, they're all appreciative here. So let us know what you think in the comment section of wherever you are on the internet. So, my name is Jared White. This is JNEWS.